Now, it gets worse for Ted Cruz. In the wake of the Planned Parenthood white anti-abortion, anti-Obama terrorist attacks, Republican Senator and presidential candidate Ted Cruz is accusing news outlets of covering up what he calls violent tendencies among Democrats. Let's listen to him explain that most violent crime is committed by Democrats. Now, listen for the source. Let's take a listen.
And before I switch to the 2016 race, I have been doing pro-life events for 25 years. I've probably done more than 100 of them. Sure. I have never met, not once, a single pro-life activist who is in favor of violence of any sort. Have you, Senator Cruz?
I have not. And I would note that this whole episode has really displayed the ugly underbelly of the media. Every time you have some sort of violent crime or mass killing, you can almost see the media salivating, hoping desperately that the murderer happens to be a Republican so they can use it to try to paint their political enemies. Now, listen, here's the simple and undeniable fact. The overwhelming majority of violent criminals are Democrats. The media doesn't report that.
Right.
What they report, and there's a reason why the Democrats for years have been viewed as soft on crime, because they go in and they appoint to the bench judges who release violent.
Okay. If you were waiting for Ted Cruz to cite his source, I hope you weren't holding your breath, because he doesn't. Because there is no data to suggest that most violent criminals are Democrats. Hugh Hewitt, the host, failed to mention that Ted Cruz has embraced the support of Kevin Swanson, a pastor who has called for the putting to death of all gay people. Cruz has previously accused the man behind the fatal shooting at Planned Parenthood, Robert Louis Deere, as being a transgendered leftist activist. That has completely been debunked. He was not transgender. He also was a right-winger. There is really nothing to debunk because Ted Cruz cites no data, no studies, nothing. What can we say, though, Lewis, about which political policies are responsible for more crime? Pretty clear. Raising the minimum wage reduces crime. We know crime is driven many times by one's economic situation. Republicans are against raising the minimum wage. Increased income and wealth inequality, increased crime by creating this unbridgeable gap between the haves and the have-nots. Republicans are not the party interested in reducing that gap. That certainly doesn't decrease crime. And social welfare programs generally reduce the desperation to steal or commit petty crime. That's the truth.
Well, you could make those arguments. Ted Cruz might just say, this is about personal responsibility.
Right.
Regardless of your situation, nobody should be committing any type of violent or petty crime. And so, he can make that argument, but he's really not trying to make life better or easier for Americans.
Oh, Ted Cruz, are you crazy? If anything, Ted Cruz is making life worse for a plurality of people, in spite of the fact that he doesn't want any policies that would be bad for grandma because his mom is on Social Security. That's sort of like his plea. That's Ted Cruz being a sympathetic guy, where he says, hey, I might say completely crazy stuff about just about every political issue, but I won't do anything that's bad for grandma because my mom is alive and I care about her.
Yeah, but as soon as his mom isn't, Dave, you can count on entitlements are out the window.
After the break, what predictions about climate change should we take seriously, and which predictions might be hyperbolic or exaggerated? We are going to drill down on that with Dr. Michael Mann right after the break.